All right, so we're going to move forward. We've already gotten started with chapter 8, and now we're going to continue. This is part 2, and working and talking about motivation and emotion. Again, I gave you a prelude to what we will be discussing in terms of motivation, and module 8.3 is going to be talking about sexual motivation.
Understanding sexuality and identity. Sexuality isn't just about attraction or behavior. It's a key part of what drives us as human beings. It shapes how we connect with others and how we understand ourselves. Think of it as one of the many sources of motivation that influence how we express love, intimacy, and even confidence. Your gender identity, how you personally experience being male, female, both, or neither, is part of your inner sense of self. It's not just about biology, but about who you feel you are. On the other hand, sexual orientation is about the direction of your romantic or sexual attraction, whether it's toward men, women, both, or different gender identities. Together, these form an essential part of your self-identity. But here's the twist. Society also plays a significant role in shaping how we understand these ideas. Each culture sets certain expectations about what it means to be masculine or feminine. These are called gender roles, the unwritten rules about how men and women are supposed to act, dress, or feel. For example, some societies may expect men to be tough and assertive, and women to be gentle and nurturing. As we grow and learn, part of our journey is figuring out which of those expectations fit us and which ones we might want to challenge. Recognizing that these roles are socially created, not fixed truths, gives us the freedom to define ourselves authentically. Masters and Johnson, Understanding the Sexual Response Cycle. Back in the 1960s, William Masters and Virginia Johnson were among the first researchers brave enough to study how the human body scientifically responds to sexual stimulation. Before their work, most ideas about sex were based on assumptions or moral beliefs, not actual research. They changed that by observing and recording what physically happens in the body during sexual activity. Masters and Johnson described the predictable pattern that occurs in both men and women when the body becomes sexually aroused. They called it the sexual response cycle, a series of 4 stages that show how the body builds up to, experiences, and recovers from sexual excitement. Let's break down the 4 phases. Excitement phase. This is the beginning of arousal. The heart rate increases, breathing quickens, and blood flow rises to the genitals, causing physical changes like an erection or lubrication. It's the body's way of saying, hey, we're getting ready. The plateau phase. The body's excitement levels off but stays high. Muscles tense, sensitivity increases, and physical signs of arousal are sustained. Think of it as the holding steady phase before reaching the peak. With the orgasm phase, there's the climax, the most intense stage of sexual pleasure. There are rhythmic muscle contractions and a sudden release of sexual tension. It's often the shortest phase but the most powerful. Then there's the resolution phase. Here, the body slowly returns to its normal, relaxed state. Heart rate and breathing slow down, muscles relax, and a sense of calm or satisfaction usually follows. Masters and Johnson's research helped demystify human sexuality, showing that it's not something strange or shameful, but a natural biological process with predictable patterns. So on this slide is a quick visual review of the 4 phases of the sexual response cycle. Excitement. The body starts to respond to sexual stimulation with increased heart rate, blood flow, and arousal. Plateau. Arousal levels off but stays high as the body maintains physical readiness for orgasm. Orgasm. The peak of sexual pleasure marked by rhythmic muscle contractions and an intense release of tension. Resolution. The body gradually returns to its normal, relaxed state, often leaving a sense of calm or satisfaction. To help you remember, here's a mnemonic for the sexual response cycle. Every person or reacts. You can break it down like E, excitement. The body gets energized and starts to respond to arousal. P, plateau. Things persist at a high level. Your body holds steady before climax. O, orgasm. The peak moment, release and pleasure. R, resolution. The body relaxes and returns to calm. Here's a tip for you to remember it like this. Every person or reacts differently. Understanding vasocongestion and the refractory period during sexual arousal, the body goes through a process called vasocongestion, which means the swelling of tissues with blood. This increased blood flow is what causes penile erection in men and vaginal lubrication and swelling of the clitoris and labia in women. In simple terms, vasocongestion is your body's physical, yes, we're ready signal during arousal. Masters and Johnson discovered that, overall, men's and women's sexual responses are more alike than different. Both experience the same 4 phases: excitement, plateau, orgasm, and resolution. However, there's one major difference after orgasm. Men enter a refractory period, a recovery time when their body can't have another orgasm or ejaculation, no matter how much stimulation there is. It's like the body hitting the reset button. Women don't have a refractory period, which means they can experience multiple orgasms in a short time if stimulation continues and they're comfortable. So, while the physiology of arousal works similarly for everyone, the timing and recovery after orgasm can vary between men and women and even from person to person. Understanding sexuality and identity. Sexuality isn't just about attraction or behavior. It's a key part of what drives us as human beings. It shapes how we connect with others and how we understand ourselves. Think of it as one of the many sources of motivation that influence how we express love, intimacy, and even confidence. Your gender identity, how you personally experience being male, female, both, or neither, is part of your inner sense of self. It's not just about biology, but about who you feel you are. On the other hand, sexual orientation is about the direction of your romantic or sexual attraction, whether it's toward men, women, both, or different gender identities. Together, these form an essential part of your self-identity. But here's the twist. Society also plays a significant role in shaping how we understand these ideas. Each culture sets certain expectations about what it means to be masculine or feminine. These are called gender roles, the unwritten rules about how men and women are supposed to act, dress, or feel. For example, some societies may expect men to be tough and assertive, and women to be gentle and nurturing. As we grow and learn, Part of our journey is figuring out which of those expectations fit us and which ones we might want to challenge. Recognizing that these roles are socially created, not fixed truths, gives us the freedom to define ourselves authentically.
All right, so we're going to pause a minute and I want you to go ahead and take your attendance. Please be sure to scan the QR code so that we have you down so you don't be marked absent.
What causes sexual orientation? The truth is, we don't have a single clear-cut answer. The underlying causes of sexual orientation remain unclear, and that's okay. Human sexuality is complex, and scientists have learned that it can't be boiled down to one simple explanation. In the early days of psychology, researchers often tried to find psychological causes, assuming that things like childhood experiences or family dynamics shaped someone's orientation. But over time, those theories lost traction because they didn't hold up under scientific evidence. And frankly, they often carried a lot of bias. Today, most researchers look more closely at biological factors like genetics and prenatal hormones, the hormones present in the womb before birth that may influence how the brain develops. These factors don't determine orientation in a mechanical way, but they may set the stage for how attraction later develops. The most widely accepted view now is that any one thing doesn't cause sexual orientation. Instead, it's the result of a complex mix of influences: genes, hormones, brain chemistry, environment, culture, and personal experience, all interacting over time. Therefore, in short, there's no single cause, no one-size-fits-all explanation. Sexual orientation is part of the natural diversity of being human. When sexual problems become sexual dysfunctions, it's entirely normal for people to have occasional problems with sexual interest, arousal, or response. Life happens. Stress, fatigue, relationship issues, or even certain medications can affect desire or performance from time to time. Everyone experiences ups and downs. However, when these problems keep happening over time and begin to cause emotional distress or strain on relationships, psychologists classify them as sexual dysfunctions. These are ongoing difficulties in any stage of the sexual response cycle: desire, arousal, orgasm, or resolution, that make sexual activity less satisfying or even impossible. Research shows that women are more likely than men to experience a lack of sexual desire or difficulty reaching orgasm. This can be due to a variety of factors: biological, emotional, relational, or even cultural. Men, on the other hand, may experience issues like erectile dysfunction, trouble maintaining an erection, or premature ejaculation, reaching orgasm sooner than desired. They can also experience low desire, though it's discussed less often. Realize, occasional challenges are every day. Persistent distress isn't something to be ashamed of. It's a sign to talk to a healthcare or mental health professional. Sexual health is part of overall well-being, and help is available.
All right, so now we're going to move into module 8.4. We're going to look at emotions. And just to give you a heads up, we're not going to do the entire module, but I did want to get a head start on it, and we'll probably wrap it up on Wednesday.
What are emotions really? Emotions are those powerful, sometimes unpredictable experiences that color our lives. They're what make us feel alive. Whether it's joy from acing a test, fear before a big presentation, or anger when something feels unfair, emotions shape the way we think, act, and relate to others. In psychology, emotions are defined as complex feeling states that include physical changes in the body, mental interpretations, and outward expressions. According to Nevid, emotions have three basic components that work together like a team. Physiological component, what the body does. This is your body's automatic physical reaction to emotion, like a racing heart when you're scared, sweaty palms when you're nervous, or butterflies when you're excited. It's the body's way of preparing you to respond. Cognitive component, what the mind thinks. This involves how you interpret what's happening and how you label your feelings. For example, the same pounding heart might mean fear if you're watching a horror movie or excitement if you're about to meet someone you like. Your thoughts help shape the emotion. Behavioral component, what you show. These are the visible expressions of emotion, your facial expressions, body language, and tone of voice. A smile, a frown, crossed arms, or even tears all communicate what you're feeling to others. You can remember this as emotions equals body plus mind plus expression. They're not just feelings inside your head. They're a full body experience that connects how you think, how you feel, and how you act. Charles Darwin. Yes, the same Darwin who wrote about evolution and natural selection believed that emotions evolved because they helped our ancestors survive and thrive. In his view, emotions aren't random. They serve an adaptive purpose, helping living things respond to challenges in ways that increase their chances of survival. So, let's think about it. Fear isn't just an unpleasant feeling. It's your body's built-in alarm system. It mobilizes animals, including us, to defend themselves or run when facing a predator or danger. Anger, while often seen as negative, can be helpful. It fuels the energy to fight off threats, defend territory, or compete for resources or a mate. Darwin was also the first scientist to connect specific facial expressions to particular emotions. He noticed that a smile, a frown, or a look of surprise weren't just cultural habits. They were universal signals shared across humans and even some animals. He argued that our faces and body postures serve as tools for emotional communication. For example, baring teeth in anger or widening eyes in fear lets others instantly know how we're feeling, and that helps everyone respond appropriately. So, emotions don't just help us survive, they help us connect and communicate with each other, which is essential for any social species. Darwin believed emotions are biological survival tools. They prepare the body to act, help protect us, and allow us to communicate feelings in ways that strengthen social bonds. Psychologist Paul Ekman and his colleagues were fascinated by a big question. Are emotions expressed the same way all over the world? To find out, they conducted cross-cultural research, studying people from many different countries and backgrounds. What they discovered was pretty amazing. No matter where people lived or what language they spoke, most could recognize the same 6 basic facial expressions of emotion. Those 6 are happiness, sadness, anger, fear, disgust, and surprise. Ekman's research suggested that these basic expressions are universal, built into our biology rather than just learned from culture. In other words, a smile or a frown can speak across languages. You could show a photo of a joyful face to someone in Japan, Nigeria, or Brazil, and they likely read it as happiness. But, as with most things in psychology, there's a twist. More recent studies have found that while these core emotions are recognized globally, people from different cultures may read and interpret expressions differently. For example, some cultures focus more on the eyes when interpreting emotion, while others focus more on the mouth. Cultural display rules, social norms about when and how it's acceptable to show emotion, also affect how expressions are shown and understood. Now, let's look at how culture shapes emotional expression. Emotions may be universal, but how we show them isn't. Every culture adds its own accent to emotional expression, influencing not only how people display their feelings, but also how they interpret others' emotions. For example, when Americans smile, they often lift the corners of their lips upward and show their upper teeth, a big open grin that says, "I'm friendly." In contrast, people from Great Britain tend to draw their lips both up and back, showing their lower teeth, a subtler, more reserved smile that still signals warmth, but in a quieter way. These minor differences might seem tiny, but they reveal a lot about how culture shapes emotional style. Some cultures encourage open, expressive emotions, while others value emotional restraint or subtlety. Researchers have also found that people from different cultures vary in how accurately they recognize emotions on others' faces, how intensely they experience emotions, how openly they display feelings like anger, joy, or sadness. That's where display rules come in. These are the cultural customs and norms that tell us when, where, and how it's appropriate to express emotion. For example, in some cultures, it's fine to cry in public. In others, it's seen as something to do privately. Emotions may be universal, but their expression is cultural. Your feelings might be the same across the world, but your face, tone, and timing might say them very differently. Happiness is one of the most basic and sought after human emotions. It's that uplifting sense of joy, satisfaction, or contentment that tells us life is going pretty well. But interestingly, for a long time, psychologists didn't pay much attention to it. They focus more on mental illness, stress, and dysfunction than on what makes people thrive. That started to change with the rise of positive psychology, a movement that studies how people can live their best lives, focusing on strengths, meaning, and well-being rather than just fixing problems. One of its key goals is to understand how we can promote happiness in lasting, healthy ways. So, what really makes people happy? It's not just about money or luck, it's about balance and connection. Research points to a few consistent factors. We mentioned last week that having enough money to meet basic needs may be a consideration. Happiness doesn't come from endless wealth, but it does help to have enough financial security to pay bills, have food, and feel safe. Once those basic needs are met, more money doesn't necessarily mean more happiness. Psychologist Martin Seligman, often called the father of positive psychology, wanted to know something simple but profound. What makes life worth living? And how can we create more happiness on purpose? Through his research, he discovered that happiness isn't just about luck or good circumstances. It's something we can actively build through small daily habits. He suggests 4 practical exercises that can help anyone feel happier and more fulfilled. Gratitude is one of the strongest pathways to happiness. Seligman encourages people to write a heartfelt letter to someone who made a difference in their life but never got proper thanks. And, if possible, deliver it in person. The act of expressing gratitude not only uplifts the receiver, but it also fills the giver with joy and connection. There are 3 blessings. Each night before bed, take a few minutes to write down 3 good things that went well that day, no matter how small, and reflect on why they happened. This simple habit trains your brain to focus on the positive rather than the problems. One door closes, another opens. Life has ups and downs, lost jobs, ended relationships, unexpected changes. Instead of focusing on what went wrong, Seligman reminds us to look for the new opportunities that often follow. Reflecting on how challenges lead to growth helps build resilience and optimism. Savoring is to savor means to slow down and truly enjoy the good moments. You can plan a perfect day and share it with someone, or take time each evening to relive 2 positive experiences from your day. Savoring teaches us to appreciate joy as it happens and even after it's over. Happiness doesn't just appear, it's cultivated through gratitude, reflection, acceptance, and savoring. Seligman's message: if you want to feel happier, practice it like a daily workout for your mind and heart. Have you ever noticed that when you smile, even if you're not feeling great, you start to feel a little better? That's not just wishful thinking, it's psychology in action. The facial feedback hypothesis suggests that facial expressions can influence emotions. In other words, it's not just that we smile because we're happy, it's also that smiling can make us feel happier. The idea is that when you move the muscles in your face into an expression, like a grin or a frown, your brain gets feedback from those muscles and adjusts your emotional state to match. So, when you smile, your brain releases those feel-good chemicals like endorphins and serotonin, and boom, you start to feel happier, even if the smile started out forced. Now, not all smiles are created equal. That's where the Duchenne smile comes in. Named after a French neurologist, Guillaume Duchenne, this is the real deal, a genuine, heartfelt smile. It doesn't just lift the corners of your mouth, it also crinkles the skin around your eyes. You know that warm, eye-sparkly, can't fake it smile? That's a Duchenne smile. A fake or polite smile, sometimes called the Pan Am smile, uses only the mouth muscles. In contrast, a Duchenne smile involves both the zygomatic major, for the mouth, and the orbicularis oculi, around the eyes. Your brain can tell the difference, and so can other people. So we know that your face and your feelings talk to each other. Remember to smile genuinely, and your brain might just smile back.
All right, so we are going to stop here, and we will pick up and complete chapter 8 on Wednesday, which is October 22nd. And we'll start off where we'll be talking about the chemicals that goes along with our emotions in terms of the brain. On that note, thank you again for listening. I hope you did your attendance, and I'll see you on Wednesday. Peace.